Hi there, this is Kyle Madson with your top stories on Sports 1140. The Redskins claimed former 49ers linebacker Reuben Foster off waivers yesterday. Foster was placed on the commissioner exempt list, which means he can't practice or play for Washington, but he can be around their facility in a limited capacity, and he will continue to get paid. So it's not technically a suspension for him, but don't expect to see him on Monday night against the Eagles. Jaguars running back Leonard Fournette lost the appeal of his one-game suspension, so he will be out this week against the Colts. He can return next week on Thursday night when the Jags visit the Titans. And the latest college football playoff rankings are out. No changes in the top three. It's still Bama, Clemson, and Notre Dame. Number 4 is now Georgia. Number 5 is Oklahoma. And number 6 is Ohio State. Ohio State beat Michigan, the former number 4. It's 8:04. Peak Financial wants to talk retirement. Dial pound 250 and say the word money. Those are your top stories.
Money.
Now it's time for the third hour of the drive. Second hour of the drive. Third hour of the drive.
Third hour,
Sports
Kyle.
1140. In case you can.
Rise and shine, sleepyhead.
I'm not letting you go to work today.
It's like in soccer. Is in the 62nd minute.
But it's 61.
You're gonna talk.
Get on the phone
I
at
got you.
339-1140.
Pretty awesome, huh?
Jump in on our text line at 441140.
Everyone is talking about it. You must know that.
The drive starts now.
Trucky ducky quack quack.
Oh, I'm back to the drive. Final hour.
Chris texted me yesterday and he's like, hey, is there anything I need to know for the show? Just on this side of things, like different like things. And I'm like, yeah, don't do it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I said to him, too. And then I said, text Kyle. Because Chris will be filling in for Kyle Madson on Friday. I've done this show without you before, haven't I? A couple times.
Yeah, I still have a voicemail that you left me on air
Oh, yeah, that's
while I was
right.
in Disneyland.
No shade. No shade. I almost said shade again.
You almost did
I
it.
just said it 3
hey,
times.
you know what? Don't succumb to internet commenters.
I know, but now it's a thing in my head. I'm very happy Chris will be coming in. I worked with Chris for a long time on the night show.
Chris is great.
You hear him on the lowdown with Damien and Jason. You'll hear more of Chris, I hope. I'm certainly going to afford him the opportunity. It's different with Damien and Jason because they've got 2 guys in this room plus Chris. It's just you and me. I have nobody else to bounce things off of other than you and callers and texters. So
one of the first times
And Eunice.
because Chris has been Grant's board op forever. And when I started interning with Grant, the first day I just had no idea like what as far as I knew, interns like got coffee. And so I'm sitting there and Grant's producer at the time, Jody Bacon, was walking me through everything. And so I'm sitting there kind of on my own for the first time, and we go to break, and Chris is standing there, and I go, can I get you like coffee or anything to eat or anything? hey, and Chris turns around and looks at me and gives me this look like I just spoke a different language.
Yeah.
And he's like, what? No, what? Like, no.
It's not your place type of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Chris,
So from then on, I've had respect for Chris.
then that's why you don't get me coffee.
Yeah.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Good
And I
job, Chris.
Can if you want.
No.
I'm technically your intern.
Maybe
so.
later. Yeah. paid slightly higher. Before you get Scott Bair, I want to run a couple things by you. We'll get Scott here in a couple minutes.
Okay.
Baseball has
okay.
had a few issues, and I don't want to get too far down this road with political donations. You've got the one of the Giants owners, I think their main owner who made a donation that is very much upsetting a lot of fans. And baseball got involved in that too. To be honest with you, I didn't even know Major League Baseball made political donations, and that's just me being ignorant. Seems like it's a little bit. I understand that in some cases, if it benefits baseball, they might want to support this or that candidate. But gosh, that gets a little hairy to me when you have a league taking stances in politics when it comes to specific candidates. But one thing that caught my eye, Commissioner Rob Manfred was talking about this yesterday, and he made a comment. He said, first and most important, the comments attributed to this particular candidate are completely at odds with the values that Major League Baseball has always embraced. And I get what he meant. I don't want to nitpick, but I'm gonna. I think it's a little bit or a lot of bit tone deaf when you start speaking about values that Major League Baseball has always embraced. because Major League Baseball has not always embraced the right values. And I feel comfortable saying the right values, even though that could be construed as opinion. I think we're all at a point where we're okay with saying segregation in baseball was bad. I don't think that's an opinion. I don't think that's close to an opinion. I think that's a fact. I think baseball has a very checkered past when it comes to embracing values. I would just stay out of the political front altogether if I was baseball. Period. End of statement. Joining us right now from NBC Sports California, he talks Raiders with us each and every week, and we appreciate that. What has been, I'm sure, a trying season, much like when we talked to Matt Barrows yesterday on the Niners. Same thing with Scott Bair today, but he continues to turn out fantastic coverage at NBCSports.com. Just click on the little Raiders tab, and there you go. The one, the only Scott Bair. Good morning, Scott. How are you?
Pretty good. How about you?
Oh, I was talking to Kyle off air, and true story. I said, I don't know how Scott does it. Seriously, I know it's your job and you get paid and you love your job, but my goodness, seasons like this, it's just at some point, I know there's a lot of drama at times surrounding this team, a lot of challenges, but you do continue, and I'm not just giving you lip service, put out tremendous content at NBCSports.com, but I got to imagine that this season, much for players and for fans, has been a disappointment. Also for people that cover the team, because as many have told me, Scott, it's more fun to cover a team that's winning.
Yeah, absolutely. As a matter of fact, and I don't think I'm taking you guys too far behind the curtain here, but we just had a discussion, my boss and I and our 49ers insider, Matt Mayoko, about, gosh, are we going to have to start talking draft in season? Am I going to start looking at bowl games that are coming up and saying this guy could be a good option in the first or second round, and man, I'm going to spend a lot of time at the Senior Bowl and all those different types of things, because Raiders fans are still engaged. Just they're not engaged necessarily on the outcome of Sundays as much as they used to be. So it is definitely different. You have to kind of shift things and move them around, and John Gruden's colorful broadcaster inbred commentary has died a little bit after he's taken so much flack, and who can blame him? But we're definitely at the point now where we're trying to run out the string a little bit, and we're trying to identify areas where fans can still sit in front of their TV on Sunday or go down to Oakland Coliseum if you feel like paying that freight and say, all right, that's something that I can watch for that is actually meaningful. Not that the Chiefs are going to put up a 50 burger, but you're really having to look inside the game for little nuggets of kind of signs of progress or information about what can be applied moving forward. And that is not the football way, right? The football way, the Raiders way, is just win, baby. And now we're talking about just take a really close look at the rookie defensive tackle, sir. I mean, it's a much different mentality.
Do you experience, because I don't know if you know this, but the 49ers aren't very good. And I do a little bit of writing about the 49ers, and I've noticed that when you do write about the draft or you write about something positive, you get these people that come out like they're 2-8 or 2-9. Like, what are you talking about? They suck. Do you run into that same issue?
Yeah, I finished a mailbag last night that's going to post pretty soon, and one of the questions was, I'm getting sick and tired of seeing John Gruden smiling after losses. I'm getting sick and tired of seeing these guys anything but like down in the dumps, destroy their whole Sunday and whole week ruined because of that outcome. And I think I know some of my best friends are true diehard sports fans, and a loss for their NFL team is a real strike against their Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, right? So I think it's more like, hey, man, I want you guys to feel like I feel, that you want to have that connection of the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows. When you're 2-9, right, and the whole world knows that you're rebuilding, even as players and coaches, you do have to look at things with a different guise. And I think that for as much as John Gruden is known as the Chucky raised eyebrow child's play, raising hell on the sidelines guy. He can also be a real cheerleader at times. Like, for example, Brandon Parker gives up 3 sacks in a row. That is insane, right?
It's hard to do.
To the same dude. And the next day, John Gruden's like, yeah, that was a bad sequence, but we love his development. We want him to stay mentally. You know what I mean? That he's propping him back up. So while I'm talking about trying to find different ways to look at this game, I think ultimately players and coaches have to do that too. And I remind fans that if they lived and died by every loss where you know it's going to come, they would certainly go insane. And I think Sunday is a fantastic example of that, is that if you think obviously they're going to fight and they're going to try to win, but if you lose that game 48-10, you cannot act like the world ended or that's a real surprise necessarily, that you have to take your positives and try to keep building.
Scott Bair with us. Scott, if when you talk to fans, when you hear back from them, I see 2 different camps, and I'm curious as to which you think is the more prevailing camp. The one that says, we got a guy in John Gruden who has won a Super Bowl, who is regarded as one of the best analysts and football minds there is, and a guy that is already rich and isn't going to worry and jump the gun and be impatient. He's in for the long haul. That's one camp. And then the other camp is, dude, this guy is super rich. He got paid a ton on Monday Night Football. This contract is insane. He's already got a ring. His legacy, and in some aspects, is already set. Maybe he's not hungry enough. Maybe there's not that same sense of urgency that other younger, less successful established coaches might have. Which do you see as the more prevailing camp amongst fans?
Amongst fans, I think because, well, I'm, here in the, in Northern California, and they think the latter, right? Because they have opportunities to see winning football, and it's being stripped from them. And it's been stripped from them.
Right.
It's not being. It's already done. And that is where this is interesting, and why those two ideologies, right? One of them applies to Sacramento and Santa Rosa and Walnut Creek, right? And then the first one that you were talking about, that he's got job security and he's rich and he is allowed more than any other young coach that you could imagine the freedom to really sort of tank if that's what he chooses to do. And that's kind of the national storyline, I think. So there is kind of a break here between what's going on in the 906 and the 925 and the 510 versus what's going on in other area codes across the country.
Interesting. Scott Bair with us. That's really interesting, that breakdown on different areas and how people feel. One quick note. Was there any talk? Did you hear whispers at all? Did the Raiders at any point kick the tires on Reuben Foster?
No.
Okay.
That's not their thing. I can't think of who the crazy Panthers edge rusher was, but there have been a couple of different instances of this, and with guys with issues with domestic violence. And owner Mark Davis, you can give him crap about a lot of things. Not this one. He is a one-issue voter when it comes to this type of thing. He's made a very strong stance about that in the past, and I don't think he's going to take a flyer on somebody like that. He was outspoken maybe 3 or 4 years ago, saying that the Raiders would not be a destination for people with those types of offenses, especially multiple ones, without getting too serious. His good friend and Raiders Hall of Famer Fred Biletnikoff's daughter has now passed because of some issues with that.
Yeah.
That affects Mark deeply, and I don't see him budging one bit on that.
Sure. Good for him.
Yeah, so I want to just move off of that real quick. Reuben Foster himself kind of filled a need for the Raiders, but is that the looking forward to the draft? You were mentioning that you and Mayoko and your bosses at NBC were talking about looking ahead to the draft. I want to do that right now, real quick. What would you say is the Raiders' biggest need in the 2019 draft?
Yeah, and here's where I think Raiders fans are going to hate what I'm going to say. But the biggest needs are the to replace the guys that you just traded, right? Like that's what it is. You had a Hall of Fame edge rusher. Man, you could really use one of those. Granted, at a much cheaper rate. You gave away a dynamic, albeit maddeningly inconsistent wide receiver in Amari Cooper. Man, you need about 5 wide receivers at that point. You need to flip the entire receiver core over. So I think those are the two. You referenced middle linebacker. I call it the curse of Rolando McClain because they haven't had a decent one or a consistent one since they drafted that dude. I mean, the list is extremely, extremely long of guys that have come in here and have not been able to even last or stay. You think even in the mailbag today, I didn't answer it, but I got a question about Navarro Bowman. Right, he's been gone for a long time. That's how stressed people are about the middle linebacker spot, and how the Raiders have not been able to find the right guy. From the Ben Heaney's to the Curtis Loftons, to even to the Perry Rileys and right on down the line. They have not been able to find consistency there. They have not used a draft pick above the 5th round on a player from that position, and I don't know if they're going to do it now. It's a different draft philosophy with John Gruden and Paul Guenther, and Paul Guenther loves the way I have to phrase this appropriately. Really likes Vontaze Burfict, maybe more than the casual non-Bengals fan. Oh. And he was he was a later draft pick. And I think what I bring up Burfict for is that they want that type of field general in there. I do think it's going to require a higher draft pick than they have used on this position since Rolando McClain. That didn't work out very well. But since then, so I think it's time now. They have enough draft capital, maybe not in the first round, but it's time to get that spot fixed.
Just to be clear, because we make a big deal of this on the show.
Dave really hates Vontaze Burfict.
We're talking about somebody like Vontaze Burfict. There's no real worry that Vontaze Burfict could be a Raider, is there?
No, there was. I think there was like a trade rumor in the off season.
Yeah.
But that was that didn't really pan out. And no, I'm not a fan of somebody who takes the rules and pees on them. Yep. And I think that's kind of what Vontaze Burfict does. And that's not, I don't think, the style of football that they want to play. The middle linebacker, in my opinion, has to be just somebody that's magnetic, right? That you gravitate towards, and that leads by example, both in how they play and how they conduct their business. So yeah, I'm just saying, like him, right. Somebody who can be a sure tackler and effective, but caveat, without getting in his own way and skirting the rules of common football decency.
Trying to hurt people.
Right. Or, trying to end careers. Scott Bair with us. Speaking of Bair, the Chicago Bears have been ticking off Raider fans all year. This just in, they're 8-3 since the trade was made just before the season started. And then on top of that, Amari Cooper scored a touchdown, had 50-something yards, if I remember properly, versus the Titans in his first game as a Cowboy. They lost that game. They have beaten the Eagles, Falcons, and now Redskins in each consecutive game after that. They're on a 3-game streak. They have a big matchup versus the Saints. I would imagine, speaking of fans talking to you, or you hearing from them, that their anger, which was already present, continues to grow as now the Cowboys pick is down to number 21 if the season ended today from 16, and the Bears pick is still sitting at number 26. And my source there is, of course, your own article. That's got to be tremendously frustrating for fans.
Yeah, I mean, there's no other way to look at it, and I think that's why when we talk about this John Gruden's grand plan, and people ask me all the time, like, what I think about it, the Oakland complications before they move. But what I think the biggest thing, and take away all that for a second, if you can, and just focus on the trades they made to acquire these guys, right? And that Bears pick is really tough. And Reggie McKenzie said right after making the trade, he said the Bears were an attractive target because they thought the Raiders thought the Bears were gonna stink. They were going to stink, right? And
don't.
that draft pick was going to be high, and Khalil Mack was going to be worth a lot, right? And the reason why, okay, that trade came with 2 first-round picks, sure, right? But this one, it seems gosh darn certain that is going to be a low in the first-round draft pick, and that must be maddening for Raiders fans. But then they think, oh, don't worry, we have another chance in 2020. Maybe it'll stink a little more then, and that pick will be higher. But you gave up a second-round pick. The most inexcusable part of that, well, there's lots of parts I hate about the trade, but that you gave up a second-round pick in 2020, and the Raiders stink, so that second-round pick may be like 34, right?
Yep.
It may be 34, 35, and then you're doing like a 5-pick exchange, between the Bears, I'm choosing numbers, at 27, and then the Raiders at, 35, right? That means that for Khalil Mack, you gave up a first-round pick and you swapped 8 selections. That's the exact term that I would use.
Scott Bair makes it happen on NBCSports.com each and every week. He joins us at 8:05 on Wednesdays. Buddy, we appreciate it. You're working your tail off. And you mentioned, you alluded to it a few times, but let's do a real quick plug. What do you have coming up this week?
We got a full slate of stuff. We got a podcast with a prominent Raiders alumni coming up. We got a steady batch of stories. We got Raiders Central on Thursday evening on NBC Sports California and Bay Area. TV, audio, the written word if somebody's still interested in that stuff. We cover all our bases over there at the fine regional network.
All right, Scott's keeping it a surprise, and we'll leave it there. But I'm guessing Michael Huff or Fabian Washington for prominent Raiders.
I was guessing Khalil Mack.
It's actually a little Raiders roundtable. It's me, Khalil, and Amari, and Bruce, and Garrett Johnson, and Dominique Rogers-Camorti. We all just sit down and have some beers.
Perfect. Thank you, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
See ya.
Take care. It's Scott Bair joining us. We'll take a break. When we come back, hey, it's Kyle Madson's Cold Hard Facts, brought to you by Coors Light. That's in 5 minutes. Sports 1140 KHTK.
Hey, this is Kyle Madson with your top stories on Sports 1140. Reuben Foster is now a Washington Redskin. They claimed him off waivers yesterday from the 49ers. Excuse me. After the 49ers released him following his arrest for domestic violence on Saturday at the team hotel in Tampa. The NFL has placed Foster on the commissioner exempt list, so he can't practice or play for Washington, but he can be around the facility in a limited capacity, and he will continue to get paid. Jaguars running back Leonard Fournette lost his appeal of his one-game suspension, so he will not be available for the Jags as they take on the Colts at home this week. Fournette can return Thursday night against the Titans. And the latest college football playoff rankings are out. It's Alabama 1, Clemson 2, Notre Dame 3, Georgia number 4. Georgia jumped over Michigan, who lost to Ohio State. Ohio State's now number 6. Oklahoma, they sit one back of Georgia at number 5. So an exciting week of college football coming up. It's 8:30. Peak Financial wants to talk retirement. Dial pound 250. That's pound 250 and say the word money.
Money.
Those are your top stories. Now back to the drive on Sports 1140 KHTK.
Here we go. The drive continues now.
Welcome back to The Drive. Kyle's Cold Hard Facts brought to you by Coors Light. Coming up in just a second. Tomorrow we will have multiple pairs of Kings tickets to give away. Kings Clippers coming up on Thursday. That's a big game. I hope that thing is sold out. It's one of those games I feel like the fans need to really go crazy for.
Yeah,
we can help out.
The kind of game where if they lose it, we'll be able to, you'll still be able to look and go, okay, they're 10-11.
Yeah.
They're 10-11. They're fine. You know, they got out of November with 10 wins. That's huge. But if they beat the Clippers,
yep.
Who are they still number 1 in the West?
They're right there.
They're at
not
the top of the
one,
West. They're close to the
right
top
there.
of the West. And they're playing excellent. If they beat the Clippers,
they're 11-10.
And with a good win over a very good team to wrap up November.
Yep.
That has a much different feel. That's a oh shoot, look where this team is going feel versus like, hey, it's okay. It's okay. The world isn't ending.
This is weird standings. I'm looking at the standings right now. The Clippers are technically in first place. They have the highest winning percentage at 684. They're 13-6.
Oh, they have 2 fewer wins than the Warriors.
The Warriors are 15-7. Their percentage is at 682. That's why the Clippers are up top. But the Clippers are also technically a half game behind the Clippers, according to these Clippers are a half game behind the Warriors, according to these standings. So they're shown in first place. They have a better winning percentage. But according to this, they, along with the Denver Nuggets at 14-7, are a half game behind the Warriors. So they're in first place, kind of.
They're a sort of first place team.
Clippers are 5-5 on the road, 8-1 at home. Kyle, are you ready?
I was born ready.
Are you prepared?
I was
Apparently
prepared a little bit after I got here this morning.
All right, let's do this. Kyle Madson with your cold, hard facts.
It's time for the Coors Light Cold Hard Fact of the Day. Here's Kyle Madson.
Hey, it's Kyle Madson. Yeah, that's nice. Thank you,
cool?
voice guy. Cold, hard facts of the day brought to you by Coors Light. Fact 1.
The Lakers stunk last night.
Yes,
All right, number 2.
That is a fact.
They lost by a season worst 32 points to the Nuggets. They went 5 of 35 from 3. That's 14.3%, their lowest percentage in a game in which they took 33 pointers in franchise history. LeBron James also had his worst game as a member of the Lakers. 14 points on 33% shooting with 2 assists at Denver defenses. Really real.
Yeah, they
That's
are
a fact.
really real. Is that a cold, hard fact?
That's a cold, hard fact.
Denver giving up 102.3 points per game. Hey,
which,
what do you
adjusted
know?
for inflation, is like 83 points a game
Seriously.
in 2005.
Only 2 teams ahead of them, the Memphis Grizzlies and a team the Kings will see this weekend, the Indiana Pacers.
Louisville beat number 9 Michigan State in men's basketball 82-78. Why does that matter? Because the Cardinals had lost 7 consecutive games against AP top 10 teams, tied for the longest such streak in school history.
That's that means Rick Pitino was a system coach.
Wait for it.
Uh-huh.
Their win was their first over a top 10 squad without Rick Pitino as head coach since.
Oh God. Hold on. I'm going to go with 2000.
Yeah, February of 2000.
Yeah. Wow.
That's via ESPN stats and info. Oklahoma's got some good news for them, even though they're sitting just outside the top 4 in the college football playoff.
Yep.
And if the season ended today, they would be outside of the playoff.
Uh-huh.
That sounds like a bummer, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
That's some good news for them.
Okay.
4 of the 5 teams ranked number 5 going into the final weekend of the season went on to make the college football playoff in the college football playoff's history.
What?
Yeah, dude. So since 2014, Ohio State went into the last weekend ranked number 5 and made the playoff.
I remember that year very well. They lost at home to Virginia Tech by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I did not want them in the playoff. They shouldn't have been in the playoff. They ended up winning the national championship.
Right. Michigan State in 2015.
Yep. Sorry.
Alabama in 2017. The only team that missed was Michigan in 2016
Oh, Michigan.
when they had that close loss to Ohio State.
What are we going to do with you, Michigan? By the way, your guy, you liked your guy Kyler Murray yesterday, reaffirming his commitment to the A's. That's really the smart
A's
move.
legend.
Shouldn't even
Yeah.
be a question.
Yeah.
More money, more consistent money, more guaranteed money.
Unless he was going to for sure be a top 5 NFL pick, and he won't. If he was for sure going to be a top 5 NFL pick, then I think maybe the money is it might be worth it.
Maybe.
But
I'd still take baseball. You know what? It just comes down to, and I'm not trying to be crass here, it just comes down to in 20 years, you're far less likely to have CTE and other related issues and still be rich.
Right. Finally. Number just 4 today. 4 facts.
4 facts. Wow, getting lazy.
I have some good news for 49ers fans.
What? How is that possible?
At the linebacker position. According to Pro Football Focus from weeks 8 through 12, rookie linebacker Fred Warner ranks number 3 in overall grade at 88.6. He's first in coverage, also at 88.6. And he's now earned a 71.8 plus overall grade in 4 consecutive games.
You know, on this show, we shy away from this, but I got to do it. I don't want to do the whole I told you so thing, but I was on the Fred Warner bandwagon months before the draft.
Yeah.
And you were like, oh,
I had never even heard of the guy. I'm like, what, a BYU linebacker?
Yeah.
Can't tackle.
Well, look at him now, Kyle.
Is that who the Marvin Bagley song was about? It's actually about Fred Warner.
That's Kyle's cold hard facts. We got a couple minutes left. Well done. Would you like some bonus cold hard facts?
I never want anything else from you.
Sure. Well, I got your cold hard facts right here, buddy. Bananas are curved. That is
Speak
a cold
for
hard
yourself,
fact,
buddy.
But they're curved because they grow towards the sun. That is why bananas are curved. Billy goats pee on their own heads so that they can smell more attractive to female billy goats. Or that'd be like
I totally relate.
Like a Brenda goat. Would it be a female billy goat?
Wilma?
Wilma goat. The inventor of the Frisbee was cremated and made into a Frisbee after he died.
Gross.
Oh, come on. The Frisbee was originally called, by the way, the Pluto Platter. He invented it in 1948. In 2010, he passed away at age 90. His family cremated him and turned his ashes into the Frisbee. My only remaining question is, did they play with it at all? Even like
they definitely tossed
at
it
least
once,
a toss,
right?
Not all the time.
Like a ceremonial, like
they call here, boy. Call their golden retriever. Go fetch Grandpa.
Grandpa's stuck on the roof again. That's really morbid.
I'm a very spitty guy. You can hear it in my voice. But did you know if
you're a pretty spitty guy?
If and my mustache is I keep, if you're watching on the video feed brought to you by Jiffy Lube in Sac Republic, you're probably seeing me scratch my nose a lot. My mustache is at this point where hairs are starting to tickle my nose, and it's really bothers me.
I comb mine
so
down
do I,
every
but
morning.
one's going.
So worse. You gotta get little scissors and clip those off.
Why did I say I was a spitty guy? During your lifetime, this is disgusting. You will.
I don't want to know
if
this.
you're an
I don't wanna
average
know
human,
this.
you will produce enough saliva to fill 2 swimming pools. An average human produces between 1 to 2 liters of saliva a day. Think about a 2-liter bottle of soda.
No. Gross. Disgusting.
Kyle, in one single sitting, how many penguins can the average polar bear eat? Not a joke.
In a single sitting.
Yeah.
Not in one day.
No.
Polar bear slides up to the table,
yes,
knife and fork.
And can eat as many as blank penguins in one sitting.
6.
You're a little off.
20? 46 penguins.
A polar bear can eat as much as 86
That's
penguins.
That is way too many penguins, polar bear.
Have you ever been to Polar Bear Thanksgiving?
No. However, that does make sense because they go for like a super long time without eating because they live in the Arctic, and coming across things to eat is not super easy. So I imagine when they find just a gang of penguins, they are famished.
Gotcha.
How do they round up do the penguins not? I guess they waddle. They don't run very fast.
I want to know
how do you murk up 80 penguins?
Did they find this out like by testing it out, just tossing a polar bear a penguin?
Probably observation. Like they set up their cameras and they.
Okay, but how's a polar bear going to get 86 penguins in one sitting? Is he going to kill the 86 penguins first?
That's what I'm wondering. That's what. Right? Do they knock them all down? Do they go like bowling style and then just kind of walk around and pick them up?
You're all texting very nice things.
Or do they just like 2-piece each penguin, eat
just
it, track down another one?
You can catch these paws. There's the one guy saying, "Hey, slow news day, huh?" Yeah, it's cold hard facts, buddy. Secondly, Rich says bananas growing towards the sun is an example of phototropism. Look at the big brain on Rich. A couple more here. We got a break. Movie trailers were originally shown after the movie.
That's why they're called trailers.
That's right.
And not before.
And finally, this one's going to screw with me all day long. There is something called the Pinocchio paradox. Are you familiar with this?
Yes. It's when you lie and your nose grows.
No.
Oh.
It's if Pinocchio says, quote, "My nose will grow now." It would cause a paradox. If you think about it, Pinocchio's nose would have to grow to make his statement not a lie, but then it can't grow otherwise. The statement would not be a lie. What? This was thought of by an 11-year-old girl and has now become the subject of much debate. 2001 is when she thought it up. What would happen? My nose will now grow, something I will never say because I've already been there. That's Pinocchio's paradox, buddy. And those are your Coors Light. Cold, hard facts. We'll take a break. When we come back, what's on tap? Not a lot. And what would happen, this is important, what would happen if you suited up a steer and put him in a football game? We'll talk about that next right here on Sports 1140 KHTK.
Here's what's on tap.
What's on tap? Brought to you by...
Thumb drives,
Hey,
flash drives, USB drives, whatever you want to call them.
much better than a toe drive.
That's just a great take.
I saw a video the other day. It was from the 80s. Somebody was backing up their computer, and they had to use like an entire case of discs to just, you get done with one, you pull it out, you put another one in. There was like 30 of them. You could back all that up now easily on a drive literally the size of not really even your thumb, your pinky.
There's more. Those of you listening on the app or watching the KHTK stream on your phone, there's more computing power in our phones now than there was in the first rocket that landed on the moon.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
First spaceship.
Atlanta,
Freaking spaceship.
Atlanta looking for 2 in a row. They won in Miami last night. They go to Charlotte. A lot of 4 o'clock starts and 5 o'clock starts today. San Antonio and Minnesota. Chicago, Milwaukee, Orlando, Portland, and Phoenix. And the LA Clippers, who will be here tomorrow. That's good. The LA Clippers will be on the second game of a back-to-back on a home road back-to-back. I'm not going to lie. This week's kind of sucked when it comes to sports. We've had nothing. The Kings didn't play. They haven't played Monday, Tuesday. They don't play today. I'm really excited for tomorrow because we finally get to preview a Kings game. We've got a football game that's going to be, you would think, fairly decent for Thursday night football. What is that, the Saints and Cowboys? Yeah. We'll finally have some freaking sports to talk about. I told Kyle last night I'm sitting in front of I had my computer open for like 2 hours, like 9 to 11, just going, duh, what are we going to? I mean, our top story today was the Redskins and Reuben Foster, Denver beating the Lakers, and Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. Now, there's nothing to talk about, but my goodness gracious. You know, one thing that's taken over the internet, and I say this only because I want many of you to understand that Kyle and I are not just stupid on air, we're stupid off air. I don't know if you've seen the picture of this steer called Knickers. It's a big old cow thing that stands about 6'4" down in New Zealand.
It stands on all fours. When it stands up, it is 6 feet 4 inches tall.
That's ridiculous. And it showed it with like the other cows in the herd. Everybody, it's like, that's what I love about the internet. It just took over. It's everywhere now. People cannot believe. And by the way, there's an ox in China that's actually the tallest, bovine or whatever.
Creature, yeah.
So this thing is everywhere. It shows it with the rest of its herd. It looks like it's like the shack of cows, like just is bigger and stronger than everything.
Have you seen Zion Williamson high school highlights? It's like that.
Somebody showed a split screen photo that got me of this cow Knickers and little cows around it, and then on the other screen it was Andy Reid in the punt, pass, and kick. When he was just so much bigger than everyone. So I hit Kyle with a question, which was, could a football team sign Knickers and train him to take the football and run it into the end zone? So my very first question is this. Number one, I'm sure there is, but Kyle, is there something in the NFL rulebook that would specifically prevent a team from signing an animal and training it how to play?
Yeah, I'm assuming that there's some stipulation that says it has to be a human. I also think that you would run into issues from animal rights groups. saying that the animal is being told to do that against their will because it can't sign a contract. It can't agree to terms of a contract. But I maybe I'm wrong, but in the NFL rulebook, I doubt there's something that says teams are made up of 53 human players.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Like, would this be an exception they'd have to make? Because you could.
But I'm certain that in order to be a league, in order to be an entity that makes money, there's some contractual language that says humans only.
Because that'd be a hell of a draft pick. You just sign him to feed.
Because what's the...
To feed. Yeah. You sign him to a 2-year, 700 feed pound contract. So then Kyle and I went on this riff about you'd have to rename the cow. It couldn't be Knickers anymore. It'd have to be something football-centric. I have in front of me, Kyle, a couple of our suggestions. Kyle started off with Walter Staken, as in Walter Payton, but with steak. I responded with Bovine Jackson. Kyle hit the ball back with Muhsin Muhammad, which I loved. And then doubled up with Rob Gronkowski, which I told him to drop the mic. And that's where the conversation should have ended. But I couldn't help myself, so I responded with Warren Moon. Kyle then went Ben Roethlisberger. So good. So good. Then he tried to compliment me on Bovine Jackson, but that was just
really funny.
That was just being condescending.
It was a slow burn, but it made me laugh.
Cattle-Ack Williams.
My favorite one you did.
To which you responded with George Cattle, which made me laugh. Then I started going on a quarterback tear. Went for 3 in a row. Marcus Mariota, Baker Mayfield. And this one was kind of a reach.
It's a huge reach.
Brett Tartarve. You know, like beef tart.
Dude, Fran Tartarkington.
Oh, wait, what?
Fran Tartarkington.
I understand it was a reach, but these really are all reaches. Kyle then comes up off the canvas with Julius Heifers. Well done.
Also, Jabril Heifers.
Jabril Heifers would work. I doubled up on quarterbacks again. Drew Cheese and Tim Couch. Kyle nailed the coach. Don't take that out of context. Bull Cowher would definitely be the head coach. And the broadcaster, of course, would be John Mooden. Guys, that's how stupid we really are in real life. We spent an hour on this.
That's what this show is not like a, hey, let's do a radio thing, and then we get off and we're like, hey, man, did you check the stock market today?
Hey, Billy. Hi, Jody.
We're just dumb as hell all the time.
And one of the reasons I also wanted to bring it up is to rely on the intelligence or lack thereof of our listeners, who I know would submit ideas.
Do we have some?
Vince Moofork. How did you and I both pass on Steerling Sharp?
Ah, that's good. I was trying to get Steer, but I can't. The only thing I came up with was Jabari Steer instead of Jabari Greer. I didn't like that one very much. Steerling Sharp is excellent.
Colin Kaepernick would be a controversial signing.
Very controversial, yeah.
From the 209.
People don't like Colin Kaepernick and the movement that he stands for.
Dude. Moo Smith-Schuster. Perhaps coached by John Gouda. I see what they're doing there, John Gruden.
Okay. That's fair.
From the 209, how'd you not get Warren Moon? That was one of the first ones we said. We said Warren Moon. Adam Vinatieri.
Oh, that's awesome.
We're stupid, and so are some of you. Our thanks to the guys we had on today. Jerry Reynolds, Scott Bair, so many more helping out on the text line. For Eunice, for Kyle, I'm Carmichael Dave. We'll see you tomorrow at 6 a.m. Jim Rome is next. The England Talk Show host will be, of course, Colin Cowherd.
That's easy.
That's very easy. That's it. I will not utter another one. See you tomorrow on Sports 1140 KHTK. Bye-bye now.
Since 1990.